Good morning, guys, and happy Monday. It is May 11th. I can't believe we're already in the month of May. So this week we are working on book number 32, which is Winter of the Ice Wizard. Now, if you have the new set of Merlin missions, I think it's book number 4, but I'm not 100% sure. This one is actually one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this one. And this one is actually shorter than any of the other books we've read-ish, in that it only has 9 chapters, but the length of it is actually probably just about as long as the other ones that we've read. So we'll kind of work through it this week so we can get through it all by Friday. So as usual, we're going to start with our vocabulary. Some of the vocabulary words this week are words that we've actually seen before, but they've never been specific vocabulary words. So the first word this week is knelt. Knelt is spelled K-N-E-L-T, knelt. It's basically past tense of kneel. So, when you kneel down and put your knee on the ground, knelt is like, Miss Riley knelt on the ground yesterday. The next word is rudder, spelled R-U-D-D-E-R, rudder. And basically what a rudder is in a ship on a boat, in order to steer the boat, there's usually something. So here's our boat, right? There's something on the back of the boat that sticks out that when you turn it, it makes the boat turn left or right. It's similar to something that you might find on an airplane or something like that. So a rudder is just this thing that comes off the back of a boat that helps you to steer it and make it move in one direction or the other. The next word is staff. A staff actually is what we call a homonym, meaning there's multiple meanings for this word, but the meaning that we're working with this week is basically a really long kind of wooden pole, and you would use it by holding onto it almost like a walking stick and using it to lean on when you walk. A lot of times in legends or in fairy tales or things like that, people might have a staff that's magical, and it might have magical properties to it and be almost like a really, really big wand. The next word is tapestry. Now, we've talked about tapestries before in multiple books. But tapestries, just to kind of review, are those, basically they're drawings that are made out of fabric. So instead of being a painting, it's made out of fabric, it's woven fabric, and it would be hung on the walls in castles a long time ago. And it served kind of multiple purposes. One, of course, it was decoration. It helped to keep the room warmer, because if you're covering kind of cold stone with fabric, it's warmer. And then the other thing is that it also helped to cut down on echoes, because again, if you have just stone walls, there's going to be a lot of echoing, but if you cover them, that won't be as echoey. The next word is trudged. Trudged is a weird word. It's spelled T-R-U-D-G-E-D, trudged. Trudged is like when you're walking kind of slow and heavy. You might trudge somewhere if your parent, say, tells you to go somewhere you don't want to go, or they call you in from playing outside and you've been having a lot of fun. You might trudge inside like, ugh, because you don't want to go in. Or if you're really, really tired, maybe you've been playing really hard at, football practice or soccer practice or something, and you've got to walk back to your car and you're kind of like, ugh, that's trudging. The next word is column, C-O-L-U-M-N. And a column is basically a support. You guys have definitely seen them before. We have them at Hill Point. It's anywhere where there's basically like a pole, could even be a square, that goes up, and it basically holds the ceiling up. It helps to support a ceiling. The last word is kind of weirdly specific to this book, but the word is norn, N-O-R-N-S, norns. So in a lot of ancient cultures, people believed that your fate, which we've talked about, which is fate is the way that your life is supposed to happen, and the things that you do in your life. People believed that fate was controlled by norns. There were many different words for them. And they basically believed that there were, it's generally 3 women that controlled fate with strings. So your life would be a string, and that they could tell what was going to happen to you based on the string. And if your string was cut, that means that you would die and things like that. So the norns were basically what people believed helped to control the path of a person's life in the past. A lot of different cultures believed in them. Okay, so we are going to get started right away on Winter of the Ice Wizard. We've actually heard about the Ice Wizard before, if you remember, when we read Summer of the Sea Serpent 2 weeks ago, or last week, I think it was actually. I think Summer Season was last week. Merlin mentioned that the ice wizard was basically the one who was kind of in charge of, or was responsible for causing the fog to roll in. So anyway, all right, I've talked enough. We're gonna go ahead and get started. This one starts with another little poem like a lot of these have. It says, "The fetter shall break and the wolf run free, secret things I know and onward see." And this is from the Poetic Edda. All right, chapter 1, winter solstice. Just as a review, we talked about solstices last week. The solstice being that time of year and the halfway point where the moon or the earth is about halfway in its journey around the sun. And the summer solstice we read about was the time between spring and summer. It's when we have the longest stretch of daylight, or the longest stretch of daylight, and then the days begin to get progressively shorter. In the winter solstice is usually in December, and that's the time of year when we have the shortest amount of daylight, but then the days start to get longer after that. A cold wind rattled the window panes, but inside the house it was warm and cozy. Jack and Annie were making Christmas cookies with their mom. Jack pressed a star-shaped cookie cutter into the dough. "Hey, it's snowing," said Annie. Jack looked out the window. Huge snowflakes were falling from the late afternoon sky. "You want to go out?" asked Annie. "Not really. It's going to be dark soon," said Jack. "That's right," said their mom. "Today's the first day of winter. It's the shortest day of the year." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Do you mean it's the winter solstice?" he asked. "Yes," said their mom. Annie gasped. "The winter solstice," she said. "Yeah," their mom said, puzzled. Jack and Annie looked at each other. Last summer, Merlin the magician had called for their help on the summer solstice. Maybe he would need their help again today. Jack put down the cookie cutter and wiped his hands on a towel. "Actually, Mom, it might be fun to play in the snow for a few minutes," he said. "Whatever," said their mom. "Just dress warmly. I'll finish up the cookies and put them in the oven." "Thanks," said Jack. He and Annie raced to the closet and pulled on their boots. They threw on jackets, gloves, scarves, and caps. "Be home before dark?" said their mom. "Yeah, we will," said Jack. "Bye, Mom," Annie shouted. They slipped out of their house and into the snowy cold. Their boots squeaked as they ran across the white yard and headed towards the Frog Creek woods. At the edge of the woods, Jack stopped. He couldn't believe how beautiful the trees looked. White powder covered the branches of the hemlocks and pines. "Look," said Annie. She pointed to 2 pairs of footprints that led out to the road and then back into the woods. Somebody else was already here. It looks like they were walking out of the woods but turned back. "Let's hurry," said Jack. If the magic treehouse had come back, he didn't want anyone else finding it. They walked quickly through the woods, following the 2 sets of footprints. "Stop," said Annie, and she pulled Jack behind a tree. "Over there." So here's Jack and Annie. Who do you think these people might be? Think about our last book. Who might they be? Through the falling snow, Jack saw 2 people in long, dark cloaks. They were hurrying towards a tall oak, and high up in the oak was the magic treehouse. "Oh no," said Jack. The treehouse was back, and someone else had found it. "Hey," Jack yelled, "stop!" The treehouse was for him and Annie, and no one else. Jack started running, and Annie followed. He slipped and fell in the snow, but scrambled up and kept going. By the time he and Annie got to the treehouse, the 2 people had climbed up the rope ladder and disappeared. "Come out," Jack yelled. "This is our treehouse," shouted Annie. The 2 kids poked their heads out of the window. They both looked like they were maybe 13 years old. The boy had tousled red hair and freckles. The girl had sea blue eyes and long curly black hair. Their cheeks were rosy from the cold, and they laughed when they saw Jack and Annie. "Excellent," said the boy. "We came to find you, but you found us instead." "Teddy!" Annie cried. "Kathleen! Hi!" Teddy was the young sorcerer who worked with Morgan in her library in Camelot. Kathleen was the enchanted Selkie girl who'd helped Jack and Annie on the summer solstice by magically turning them into seals. Jack was stunned. He never imagined that their 2 friends from Camelot could visit Frog Creek. "What are you guys doing here?" he said. "Climb up and we'll tell you," said Teddy. Jack and Annie hurried up the rope ladder. When they climbed inside, Annie threw her arms around Teddy and Kathleen. "I can't believe you came to visit us," she said. "It pleases me to see you, Annie," said Kathleen. "And you, Jack." Her large blue eyes sparkled. "It pleases me too," said Jack shyly. He still thought Kathleen was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. Even when she'd been a seal, she'd been lovely. "We went looking for you," said Teddy. "We climbed down and walked through the woods into a road." "But the road was full of monsters," said Kathleen. "A big red creature nearly ran us over. It made a honking sound." And then before we knew it, a giant black monster charged us, said Teddy. It had a ferocious growl. We came back here to gather our wits. Those weren't monsters, said Annie. They were cars. Cars, said Teddy. Yeah, they have motors on them and people drive them, said Jack. Motors? Said Teddy. It's hard to explain, said Annie. Just remember, in our world, you have to watch out for cars when you cross the road. Indeed we will, said Teddy. Why have you come here? Asked Jack. Well, we found a message for you in Merlin's chambers, said Teddy, and decided to deliver it. So we climbed into the treehouse outside Morgan's library, said Kathleen. Teddy pointed to the words Frog Creek in the message and made a wish to come here. The next thing we knew, we were in these woods. Teddy pulled out a gray stone from his cloak. This is the message we brought, he said. Jack took the stone from Teddy. The message was written in tiny handwriting, and Jack read it aloud. To Jack and Annie of Frog Creek, my staff of strength has been stolen. On the winter solstice, journey to the land behind the clouds. Travel towards the setting sun and retrieve my staff, or all will be lost. Merlin. Wow, said Annie, this sounds pretty serious. Yes, said Jack, but why didn't Merlin just send the message himself? Dunno, said Teddy, but neither Morgan or Merlin has been seen in days. Where did they go? Said Annie. It's a mystery, said Teddy. Last week I journeyed to the Selkie Cove to bring Kathleen to Camelot. She's going to be a helper in Morgan's library too, but when we returned, we couldn't find Merlin or Morgan. We only found this message, said Kathleen. Aye, and I thought that when Merlin does return, said Teddy, he'll be greatly pleased to have his staff back. Much of his power comes from its ancient and mysterious magic. Said Annie. Anyway, in his message he tells us to go to the land behind the clouds, said Jack. Where is that? 'Tis a land far north of my cove, said Kathleen. I've never journeyed there before. Neither have I, said Teddy, but I've read about it in Morgan's book. 'Tis as bleak as a frozen white desert. I'm eager to see it myself. So you and Kathleen are coming? Said Annie. Indeed, said Kathleen. Oh, great, said Jack and Annie together. If we all work together, we can do anything, aye? Said Teddy. Aye, said Annie. I hope so, thought Jack. Annie pointed to the words, land behind the clouds, in Merlin's message. Okay, ready? She asked the others. Yes, said Kathleen. I guess, said Jack. Onward, said Teddy. I wish we could all go there, Annie said. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. The Land Behind the Clouds. We're actually going to stop there for today. Since it's only 9 chapters, I only need to read 2 a day, and except for today when I read just 1, because that'll work. Plus today was longer because I introduced the book out. Alright guys, I will see you tomorrow.